And good morning and welcome to Touch Base Daily. My name is Ron Foster and I'm here to touch base with you as I always do. How you guys doing? I hope you are all doing well on this wonderful hump day. It is Water Cooler Talk Wednesday, and so we're going to have a lot of fun today. What's going on, Mr. B? I see Mr. Brian Young is in the building. Good morning, fam, he says. Good morning. And we'll see who shows up today. We will see who shows up. And let's see. So there may be a little noise in the background, and that's because I have the buyer. The buyer showed up today at the house, and all the folks are doing assessing, and my broker and her broker. And so there's a family affair here. And so what's going on with you guys? How are you all doing? And it's been a festive week, and we're just here. We're just here. Hey, Hannah gets the silver today. She is in the building. Good morning, Ron and Touch Base Daily family. How are you doing? So good to see you. Hannah, are you in the yard? Are you in the yard doing some gardening? Anyway, what we'll talk about today is we'll look at some photos, we will look at some photography, and also we will dig into and just kind of like get your feedback and what you feel about what's going on in Texas, and the flood waters and what happened in Texas and what continues to be a problem in Texas. So they say about 111 people have perished, and also that 166, almost 170 people are missing. It is a tragedy. It is a horrible tragedy. And also we'll talk about Salvation Army. The Salvation Army is also raising money. There are also some charities that are raising money for the people of Texas in those counties. So let's make sure that we stay attentive to what's going on there. Hannah says, not today. I'm still tired from a house full of family and friends during the holiday. Yes. Hey, Chris is in the building. Chris, good morning, she says. And also make sure as you're entering into the building, make sure you hit the likes, because the likes help the algorithms. And that's what we are doing. And let's people know that we're here. Hey, I see in the building also Jazzy Jazz is in the building. Good morning, beautiful people, she says. And Lisa is in the building. She says, morning. And Elise is in Texas. I think she's still there. And she says, good morning, everyone. So I sent links out to those that may want to pop one. If you want to pop one, you can also click on the QR code. And so that's also possible as well. And so check that out. And what else? I think that is what's going on. Let's see what's on the videotape. I just wanted to go to my AP, Associated Press, because that's how we roll here when we're getting our news. And so there we go. Hold on a second. So what are you guys doing? How are you doing this wonderful morning? What are you doing on this wonderful hump day? And it's still a little humid here in New York, but we got some thunderstorms that came through last night. That's to say in the evening. Lots of downpours here and there, hit and miss. We got one here in Brooklyn, here in Clinton Hill. We got lots of rain, and I was like, let me open up all the windows. And I did not sleep with the air conditioning, I was like, maybe I should put the air conditioning on because it was still a little humid. And but it's a little humid today in New York City. And it's supposed to be like this all week, like a little bit of a tropical feel to the air. So that's what's happening. Let me go to the Associated Press. Let's see what they got going on. Because, we like to look at some photography. And I said, I'm going to just definitely share more photography with you guys. And here we go, photography. And why not share? So we're talking about what's going on around the world. And I always say the best way to do that is to check out the Associated Press, the New York Times, Reuters. They all have sections on their website dedicated to photography. So if you want to like learn photography, as in photographing stories and visual telling, visual visual tellings, stories, you could do that. Oh, wait a minute. There's somebody in the room. I hear someone at the door. Let me get, I hear a doorbell. I hear the doorbell. If I can find my doorbell. They done changed everything up. Here we go. It is Dr. Chris. It is Mr. Chris Edwards. He is in the building. Whoops. There you go. There you go, buddy.
How are you?
I said, Chris is on a Wednesday? What's going
You know
on?
what? It's funny. I just finished. I had a potentially new client introduction today, so I was on and I just turned you on. I was like, oh, you know what? Let's jump on. Water
Well,
cooler on Wednesday.
it is. And like I mentioned, for those that are just joining, I mean, there's no noise in the background. I'm on my headset and everything, but I met the buyer today, so I'm excited about that. I met the
Oh, okay.
buyer. She's a wonderful woman, and I met her broker, and then my broker
Well,
was here, and so
well, let me ask you this.
they're doing their
Do,
thing.
do you feel better knowing that your home is going to someone that you actually had a chance to meet and like?
And I this floor is gonna love her. They're gonna love her. So
Is she an artist?
she's an artist, she's a
Oh,
creative,
nice. Okay.
and so I think it's gonna be really cool. She's going to love her neighbors, and they're going to love her. So that's
Okay.
gonna be really exciting. So
So before I
uh,
forget, I figured
yes,
out. So I don't know if you see it when you come in the studio. StreamYard did make mention that they have some instabilities with the versions of Chrome that people are using and some of the software that they have. So I turned some things off. So hopefully I won't get booted out today. But I
and
knew it
they
wasn't just
also
me.
changed the format of like you go over to the menu area, everything is in another format.
Well, I mean, you know how it is. Whenever someone
Yeah.
buys a company, they go in and they make it how they want. So I can definitely see it. It looks very different. You know what?
Yes.
Here's the funny thing. It's kind of some things over here in this menu is starting to look like Riverside, the other platform that
Oh,
we've been
the
using.
competitor.
Yeah, I see some things that kind of look like that a little bit. So, but yeah,
Ah,
I mean, it's called growing pains. I mean, here's the thing. They had a product that worked. That's why they bought it. Why go and start changing everything? And when they change things, they don't tell you till after the fact. So you're just flipping out like, well, where's this at? And then they send out an email like a week or two later.
hold on a
But
moment. Let me just let Tom know if you.
what's up, Touch Space Daily family? How's everybody doing on a Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday
I'm back,
morning?
guys.
Sorry.
Oh wait, there's another doorbell. I see someone I see someone at the door. I see
It's a
someone
busy
at the
day.
door
It's a busy
today.
day.
Oh, the Texas girl is in the building. Elise, what's going on? Welcome. How
Good,
are you?
good morning.
Good
I like
A
the
morning.
background.
little
What's
bit of
going on? Are you?
different setup, a little different lighting over here.
You got your chair. You got a
Yes.
little high
Hey,
tech chair in
let's
the
put you on
orange.
top.
Oh, look, see,
Yeah, she
Give
has
you the
see,
quite
status that you deserve.
they're
yes,
on top of the world.
she has quite a nice wall in here.
Oh,
This is your
you're
daughter's
not
home, right?
home.
Hmm? Say that again,
No,
Chris.
You're not
Oh
she's
home,
at
no,
her
I'm
right?
not at
daughter's.
home. I'm in Texas with
Okay.
my daughter.
I
Today is her
love her
40th
chair.
birthday.
Oh, happy
Tell her daughter
birthday.
it's happy
Yes,
birthday. Tell her we said
yes,
I
happy
love her
birthday.
orange chair, by the way. Orange is my favorite color.
yes.
Orange is my favorite color.
She was having this whole conversation about what if she had favorite colors. She said that she tends to have orange and green in her house. So
Well, you
Same.
know what? In design, interior
yes.
design, orange is the color
She
of
said, "Happy
welcoming.
birthday, Diana." Thank
Of the
you. She
what?
said, "Thank you."
Welcoming.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it
It's
makes
the
sense.
welcoming color.
Okay.
Orange is if you want to go into a room, wear orange. And if you wear orange when you go into a room, people will be drawn to you.
I
Oh,
believe that.
okay.
It is
I
one of the
believe that.
reasons why the monks wear orange
Oh,
in
okay.
Tibet.
Mm,
It's a
okay.
Tibetan orange.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna be on here the whole time. I figured I'll just jump on me for like a half an hour or so.
Well, it's always good to see you. So, what you guys? So, Elise, you're in Texas right now. Is it what's going on? And are you getting any feedback about what's happening with the flooding?
So where we are, it's just been hot and a little hot and humid. Not too hot.
Because I
But
mean,
no,
the flooding is further north than where you are, correct?
yeah, it's a little bit further over, but they did have they have a creek that's downtown that had high waters during that time.
Okay.
Because there's a creek in downtown Austin. But everything else is kind of outside of here, so it's not really Austin. And basically we're hearing the same thing that everyone else is hearing. The and then how people are responding. We need FEMA down here.
Has FEMA responded yet? Is FEMA on the ground over there?
No, not yet.
People are talking. They're talking like it's not on the ground yet.
Not yet.
That's crazy. It's been a week now. It's literally been a week.
It's the sad thing that was crazy about this whole situation in Texas is that you have the National Guard
in LA
running, just doing nothing in LA.
Harassing people.
And you got and you got ICE after the Mexicans in LA.
And they're the ones coming in.
And you got the
Texas.
Mexican Rangers that are here to help
the
us.
Texas people, right?
The irony.
Make the world make sense.
It doesn't
make
the
sense. World make sense.
It's like they said with him down here, he wants FEMA, of course, but he doesn't want to take shoulder and blame. But when things happen in California, clearly Abbott was saying it was Newsom's fault, right?
Right. He said he doesn't want to send FEMA or aid to California, but now that he needs it, we need FEMA, we need all the aid we can get. No, wait, what happened? Right. I thought the states need to take care of themselves.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, but they don't have their own state tax funding. They have other taxes that they levy. But
well, that's the problem too.
Yeah, but what's good for everybody else is not good for you.
Well, they want the states to take care of their own crises that are happening around the country, and they are trying to figure it all out. But again, FEMA's not on the ground yet, so you need FEMA to assess the dollar amounts of how this government can help.
But normally FEMA is the first people on the ground within like a day or so. It has been 7 days and they're nowhere to be found. And I'm not blaming FEMA because, the Orange Menace administration has cut them. And this man has not done anything like reached out to the people. What are you going to do? Throw MAGA hats to save these people? Hundreds of people have lost their lives. Mm-hmm. Little children. Right. So what are we supposed to do? Say thoughts and prayers? Here's the thing about it. You don't want to be, it's a Republican state, let them deal with it, because ultimately these are people's lives, these are people's children's.
Yes.
Just think of yourself or your family member in that situation. You would want help regardless. But because these politicians have politicized it so much, they make it so hard. And now these people need help, and they can't even get the basic help from the government, the country in which they live. They're getting help from the people they're trying to keep out and throw out. Make that make sense.
Right. But you remember, these are the same people that during the time of the floods and things in North Carolina were telling people not to trust FEMA.
Yes.
At that time, Biden was the president, right?
Yeah.
And then of course, they didn't give FEMA the funding they needed even then.
Right.
So,
yes.
And in this new budget, they're also cutting FEMA's funding.
Well, FEMA is supposed to be phased out. Remember, especially from Project 2025, NOAA and FEMA are going to be phased out. And now you lost 800 people for NOAA, and now they are really beginning to paint draw the lines of saying, look, you did not have enough people to assess the storm that was coming in and what was going to happen. And the other people have they warned against it. They said, do not cut NOAA. Do not cut NOAA.
And the problem that they said they were having was that they, of course, they got weather alerts.
Bye guys. Nice
And
meeting you.
the new owner.
So,
my audience says hello to the new owner. So they're on their way out.
So they got some warnings that Thursday, right? They got some warnings.
They got warnings,
flooding, but they didn't have the person in Texas who would normally put that out because they had gotten rid of those people.
And then
the person took the buyout. The person took the buyout.
Right.
So they didn't have anyone in the position.
In addition to that, they had studies saying that they need like a warning, early detection warning system like horns and stuff like that. They decided, no, we're not going to spend the money on that. We're going to send that money to manage the border. So like all these things that they knew that they needed weren't implemented, and it's just a perfect storm. So, excuse me.
Bless you.
And they're forecasting that all of these storms are going to be more intense. So you don't get rid of people when you are going into a cycle. The weather cycle is forecast to be more intense hurricanes this year, more intense like thunderstorms and thunder cells. Look, we just had this happen in North Carolina last year. Look at that. I mean, did you see how fast that water on some of the videos?
Yeah.
I mean, as high as 26
not like a half a
feet.
day, like this really, really fast. Like there was a time lapse of one of the rivers just like coming up. It didn't even take an hour for it to rise that high. But here's the thing. People don't realize we are now in the midst of heavy hurricane season. Florida and those Gulf Coast states will be hit the hardest. You do not have the warning systems in place. Last year, Florida had a pretty big hurricane. I believe it was like the Tampa area.
Right? No, right? Yeah, right up that right in that Tampa.
It's going to get worse. Who is Governor DeSantis going to blame when Florida is decimated?
Oh, they're going to blame Biden. They'll say, "Oh, Biden."
How do you blame Biden when
this up? Biden
your orange man was the one
we inherit this from Biden? That's what they do.
All bullshit. Say whatever you want to say. People are not stupid. They can see this stuff coming. Except for the MAGA people, they're the only ones that are stupid because they sit there and will believe anything and drink the Kool-Aid. But you're going to drink that Kool-Aid till that you choke on it.
Right. And I think with Gwendolyn, she's absolutely right. People have made all of this political, and it's about the people, right?
Exactly.
And the problem is they made it political last year. When they said, "Oh, don't talk to the FEMA people." You down in Florida, your home is totally destroyed. You're saying don't talk to them, but those are the places that help you. And they try to say, "Oh, the money." Are they gonna get the $750 as quickly? For people whose homes got washed away in this, as quickly as they did for that under the Biden administration? Because it's all of those things you have to watch out for.
If FEMA's not going to help you, we're going to get help from, because guess what? Most of the insurance companies, they bailed out of the state of Florida. So you don't have insurance. Most people don't have insurance now, hurricane insurance, because all those companies left.
The insurance companies have left.
Yeah, only people you have left to help support you was FEMA. And now you're saying, well, don't trust them. So you're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle, as they say.
Yeah. And so, and the thing is, like, you take the states like Texas, any state that has no state tax. If you say the states had to deal with, they rely on, a lot of those states rely heavily on the taxes that these big blue states are paying into the federal government.
Yeah.
Because that's what funds FEMA. But because the Republicans are trying to defund FEMA, which is crazy, and try to put it in the states, how are they going to make sure that happens?
Well, I mean, here's the problem. These red states, they don't realize, and they about to FAFO. A lot of these red states get their funding from the blue states because the blue states put more taxes in than they take out. Red states put in less and take in more than they put in. And people don't recognize that.
Wow. It's just to me, again, they're the ones that are saying, don't make it political, but they're the ones that started it last year. in North Carolina.
When it's
making it
convenient for
through.
them. When
It's
it's
always
convenient for
convenient.
them.
Same thing
And
with
it's
Ted
It's
not,
like
Cruz.
it's
with a
not
mass
because they
shooting.
made it
Oh,
political.
this is not the time to talk about these. But then when you talk about it after the fact, oh well, we don't want to talk about that. So when are we supposed to have these conversations?
And
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
and the whole conversation he had where he was like, "Oh, we're not going to do the blame game, blah blah." You know, you never want to hold yourself accountable, but you did the blame game with Newsom, right? When the fires happened,
Listen,
that blame game was
he's
there.
a joke.
So he
Every
did the
time
whole football thing
every
conversation.
time his state had a natural disaster, he's on vacation. He said he came back as fast
Yeah,
as he can. They looked it up and said no, he did because he could have come back 2 days early. They showed different flights that he could have taken to come back home, and he did not take those
absolutely.
flights. It took him, was it 2 or 3 days to get back home?
Yeah,
And Ted Cruz is the worst. He is one of the
But they keep
worst senators.
electing him, so you guys get what you deserve.
But you know
yeah.
what the thing is too? I mean, yes, I mean, it is also that's the gerrymandering is so intense that this man keeps getting into office again because it's the gerrymandering. Because I've talked to a lot of Texans and they like, Ron, we're trying to get this man out. We've been trying, but because of the gerrymandering, it is so hard. It would mean that all of MAGA
MAGA.
will
MAGA.
have to change their minds in order for him to be kicked out.
So talk a little bit about the differences between congressional districts and the Senate. The Senate is
Yes.
a statewide election.
Yes,
A statewide election. What happens is who's showing up or not showing up
this is true too.
in the to vote, because we have to really remember that the congressional districts and Senate seats are different.
True.
Senate is statewide.
Yes.
You can vote on the senator if you get out and vote. What's the percentage of people not voting in some of these larger blue cities down in Texas? Who's not voting? How is that voting going? I think that's the difference that people really need to understand. Gerrymandering works differently for House seats.
Yes.
Because that is where they draw all of those crazy lines. Senate seats are statewide. They just still keep electing, letting Ted Cruz get in here. But even with the vacation thing, remember how they criticized Karen Bass because she was in Africa when the fires broke out?
Yes.
And she really did try her best to get that back as fast as she could.
Yeah, it's not easy to just get a flight from Africa to
from Africa. So, but they criticize her. But every time this man has gone on, he went on vacation. When they had the horrible storm, and
he left after it happened.
He left in the midst of that.
Like, sir, you were hired to do this. Like, when stuff like this happens, you are the person that is supposed to show up and be there for the people. And you decide, nope, I'm leaving. I'm out. Peace.
He went to Mexico.
Oh, yes.
He went to the place where he's trying to support all the people.
Let me see what you guys are all saying in here. And I see good. Oh, it's a lot of folks saying, hey, Derek is in the building as well. Breaking news. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
he says the breaking news, the CEO of Twitter has resigned. That was just breaking news. Just came across the board.
Yeah,
interesting.
He just left. Just happened.
I want to hear the story about that.
Yeah, it's gonna be. We'll see what that's all about.
Oh, that's a whole shit show. Oh, I just want to touch on something really quickly because I think it's really important. This has to go back to the conversation that we had last week with Jazzy on. The Supreme Court just gave Trump permission, basically, to gut the federal government.
You read my mind.
To gut the federal government, to lay off people.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, like, when you do stuff like that, how are we as citizens supposed to fight back and say no? Because you have the Supreme Court, the ultimate of what is supposed to be lawful and unlawful in this country, saying, all right, you know what? Here, you have more power. Go do what you want to do. It's crazy.
But you know what that sets the ground for? In Project 2025, I forgot the name of the rule, is when they get rid of all of the employees in the government. Then they hire new employees, but they hire them with the allegiance.
Yes, loyalists.
The loyalists. So they have to. So that when they go into these new positions, that they've already got rid of. Now there's a loyalist requirement to be in the government,
Yes.
which also they told you last week after they passed that beautiful, ugly, big, well, you know,
Schedule F.
Big ugly
horrible
bill.
bill, that the next thing they're going to work on is voters' rights.
Yeah.
So
So-
now what has been Project 2025 is also to connect working in the government, being a loyalist, and it's connected somehow in how they want to orchestrate the voting in America. Who has the right to vote? Because they want to get rid of certain areas of who can't vote and who can vote.
Go to Stacey Abrams' website,
Excellent.
her social media, her 10 points of
10 points.
autocracy.
Yes.
We've gone through 9 of them. We are at 10 right now.
Look, I think we had 10, but anyway, they're testing 10. But the thing you were talking about, Rob, is called Schedule F. And then what they would do is
Schedule F. That's it. Thank you.
Because currently, the old guard of civil servants, you can't just take them out. You just can't wipe them out. But you know, the part that 8-1 they voted, the other 2 went over to the side with the 6 to make it an 8-1 vote to do that. And what people don't realize when and I keep saying this, and I guess maybe I'm more aware, or acutely aware of it because I live in the district, as I live in DC. Most people don't realize what federal workers actually do. They're not sitting there just playing games. They're not sitting there playing checkers or anything. They're actually doing work. They're the reason you get certain responses in a timely manner, right? So if you, for instance, those people took that early buyout from FEMA. Those are federal workers.
Yes.
Not FEMA, from the Weather Service. Federal workers. You don't replace those people. And then a lot of times the ones who may be quote unquote loyalists don't even know the jobs.
Don't know the jobs.
So you don't have anyone equipped to do anything.
They're not qualified
in those places. So everything is going to be slow. And people think, oh yeah, I want the federal government to shrink, but you didn't talk about what you want to shrink. You're not talking about where the true waste comes from. I want term limits on everybody that's in government, but that's a different story too. And how wasteful are they? But the point is, most people clearly do not understand that federal workers are civil servants. They perform services for the rest of the country, period. And you're going to feel it when they start firing these people and they're in critical places. Things are going to be slower. People are not going to get stuff that they need. And they're going to feel it. They're going to start saying, what happened? You're not going to be able to blame that on Biden. That's you. Everything after January 20th became you.
There you go. Here's that footage from the show that was
last
on
night. Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Jimmy Kimmel. That was really good. It was
really
I
watched it this morning.
Here we go.
Yes.
She's a voting rights champion.
My bad.
Former.
Hold on a second. Let me take that.
No, we can hear it.
You can hear it?
We can hear it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, great.
Georgia House Minority Leader and best-selling author. Her latest thriller, Coded Justice, comes out July 15th. Please welcome Miss Stacey Abrams.
So this is the very beginning. I'm going to get to the part where she shares. I think, well, it's pretty much in there. Let me just fast forward to it.
With Bolsonaro or India or Putin and Russia, the Philippines with Duterte. So start with winning an election. Mm-hmm. Usually the last one you're going to get to have for real. Number 2, you have an expansion of executive power. The president decides he wants more than he's supposed to have. Number 3, you start to make the Congress complicit. So you weaken them and you neutralize or neuter the judiciary. Like, oh, I don't know, the Supreme Court is giving you unfettered power and saying we don't have the ability to stop things. Then you move on to firing all of the people who know how to make government work. Mm-hmm. So you gut the civil service. And you do that because you want to break democracy so people forget the stuff that used to get done. So you can't get your Social Security check. So the CDC doesn't know what diseases are anymore. Mm-hmm. Then you put in place these loyalists, people who are only responsive to you. You put them in charge of the FBI so they go after your enemies. You put them in charge of the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, so they can signal to their friends and tell them all about the evil plans that you have. Then you make certain that you break how we communicate. So you criticize the media and you create your own echo chamber of propaganda. You call it truth, even though you know you're lying. Then you go to the next step, and I call that step 7. So at step 7, you have to blame someone. You have to blame people for the broken government, for the broken promises. So you go after DEI. You go after the vulnerable, the dispossessed. You go after any community that doesn't look like what you think power should be. While you're doing that, you make certain that you, in step 8, you eliminate anybody who can help them. So you sue law firms that do pro bono cases. You go after philanthropies and accuse them of giving money to the wrong people. You go after colleges and universities that can teach people possibly what else they should know. You get to step 9 and you start to encourage and incentivize private violence. You send the US Marines into spaces they should not be. You send the National Guard in. You kidnap people off of the streets and pretend that's normal, because that's how you quiet dissent, because you make everyone afraid that if they don't do what you want, they might be next. And once you've done those 9 steps, step 10 is easy. That's when you decide there won't be new elections, because everyone's either afraid, poor, broken, or complicit.
Hi, everybody. We are
and she nailed it right on.
We're there.
Right.
With it.
Florida's doing it.
Absolutely. And it's not
We're
just
there.
Miami. There's some other places that are trying to do that as well. I was listening to, I can't think of all of the cities, but there are several cities that are trying to say that their constituents can't vote this year. And there are lots of elections that are out there, right? So Miami, that's why I said we've already got to step 10.
Yeah.
Because we're I don't even know, not being in Florida, I can't say what they're doing in Florida, in Miami in response to this. And you're really not seeing anything on the media that's talking about, like the mainstream media.
Not at all.
It drives me insane to see that there's nothing being mentioned about any of this stuff. You look at even like GMA. Right. I look at, I pop it on once in a while.
I don't even watch them anymore. I don't watch any of that shit
it's
anymore.
All about, it is so, everything is so connected to whatever Disney is into. It's not, they're not there for news. They are not there to serve the public in getting information, critical thinking information to the public. Where are the journalists? It's like, did you become a journalist to be a fantasy, talk about food and talk about the dogs and the cats and the how cute they are? I mean,
well, look at
our
the
democracy is being torched.
Look at the White House press pool. Lawrence O'Donnell last night had a great show where he was talking about how the press pool is doing nothing. When Biden was in office, they would yell at him, scream questions at him. Now people there won't even ask follow-up questions. Like they asked a question about what happened with the seizing of sending aid and firearms to Ukraine. Trump's response was, "Oh, I don't know. You tell me." And then they didn't even follow up with a question about what's going on. It's just like, why are you journalists afraid? Like, you're supposed to hold these people accountable. Ask the hard questions. And even Fox now is trying to ask these. In fact, that was a Fox report, I believe, that had asked that question. And the response is like, well, you tell me. Like, no, you're the commander-in-chief. You're supposed to know this shit.
But the truth is, he doesn't know, right?
He doesn't know. That's the whole point. He doesn't know. He doesn't know.
When Hessex decided on his own not to
hear the doorbell,
support, give the support, he decides to do it all on his own. Of course, he's gonna say, "I don't know." There's this thing called plausible denial.
There you go.
Which means I don't know.
Full house today.
Full house. Mr. Brian Young is in the building. But as you were saying, Elise, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
I just think that's a part of the plan. Is to sit there and feign ignorance. As the leader of the country, you just say you don't know, because and truthfully he doesn't know, because he played golf on the weekend while
he
Texas
doesn't even read the notes. He doesn't.
A lot of people are drowning.
He doesn't care. He doesn't
He
know.
doesn't freaking
He just
care.
signs stuff, and he's still going. Those videos of we're not going to touch Medicaid, and we're not going to do this, and we're not going to do, but the whole bill does it. You know, he doesn't care. He doesn't care, and he
I
wants
don't
to
know
be
what's going on. I don't know him. I don't know her. What the hell do you know? Go
same
sit down
lies.
somewhere.
He is
Oh,
the worst. So, Brian, you want to contribute to with the topic we're talking on right now? What do you want to contribute, sir?
A reminder on one thing. Just it's a reminder that I find myself regurgitating in my head to keep me from going, what the? It's like, one, Project 2025. It was like laid out in Braille. Two, when it comes to the main, and I feel like these guys on the other side, the mainstream media, one is complicit, and two, my opinion, but real journalism, like I'm going to sound old, the Walter Cronkite level of journalism, where they told the truth. I don't care who you are in office. That real credible journalism at the main media outlets, in my opinion, is gone, because it's been replaced with commercialism and for-profit news. I just watched or rewatched earlier this week 60 Minutes. Scott Pelley he blasted CBS because they lost their, and this was a couple of months ago, but they lost their longtime leader of 60 Minutes, and they're in the middle of a merger, if I'm not mistaken, or back
Yeah,
then.
ABC.
yeah,
I mean,
Paramount
Paramount has a
Paramount,
merger,
yes.
and also CBS. I think CBS has a CBS. Right, Paramount
Yeah,
has a
CBS.
merger.
Yeah.
When and unfortunately we can't go back in time, but at least with history we can see some markers. And when the news, I'm shaking my head because I cringe hearing myself sounding like the pundits. I will say this anyway. When corporations started to buy the news channels, in my opinion, that's when journalism became a byline on a spreadsheet and looking at an ROI as far as money, and not an ROI as far as the truth in journalism.
Absolutely.
And
Well, that's why, like Lisa, when Lisa's saying Lisa says, when Dump doesn't answer the next reporter, when Dump doesn't answer, the next reporter should ask the same question, and so on until it's answered. And
But that's
that
what they've
press
done in the
secretary
past.
is absolutely nuts. And so since we talked about, since Lisa brings it up, and that's a good topic right there, and you brought it up also, Chris, here we go. I'll share it with you all, and into the videotape. Oh, sorry, wrong videotape. Oh, did I get rid of myself? I'm here.
You did.
I'm still. Hold on a second. There we go. I clicked. They got icons now on StreamYard. They changed it to icons. Okay, here we go. And this is what Chris was talking about from yesterday. So well done. I love Lawrence. He is one of my favorites.
He's amazing.
It's been underexplored by screenwriters. And then Donald Trump came along and went far beyond what Hollywood imagined in the presidency. Prior to Donald Trump, the challenge for screenwriters and fiction writers would have been, first of all, how could a profoundly stupid person be elected president of the United States? And then, how could a profoundly stupid person get through a day on the job as president? The fictional president, played brilliantly by Martin Sheen on NBC's Emmy-winning series The West Wing, was a wise and carefully thoughtful president for whom I wrote several episode scripts over 7 years of that series. And if I were writing the character of a stupid president in a script, I would simply have had the stupid president completely rely on a smart White House staff and a smart cabinet and just hide behind those people. And absolutely, and I mean absolutely, never talk to the press, because a stupid president's stupidity would be immediately exposed by the White House press corps. And on that point, I would have been very wrong, because it turns out the stupidest presidency in American history has the stupidest White House press corps in American history, as far as we can tell. And the press corps have become accessories, as they proved again today. No one could have imagined that if we get the stupidest president in history, we would also get the stupidest White House press corps collectively in history. But that is where we are. Some individual members of the White House press corps, and I want to stress this, remain excellent at their jobs. But they frequently don't get to ask Donald Trump a question in the elbow-to-elbow question competition that occurs when Donald Trump invites them into the Oval Office, or, as it was today, in the cabinet room. And it was the first time the Trump cabinet has met since Elon Musk left his position that wasn't actually a cabinet position, but that granted him a seat at the table in Trump cabinet meetings, absurdly, which those Trump cabinet meetings have consistently been the most ridiculous cabinet meetings in the history of the cabinet. Today, Donald Trump's accessories were allowed into the room to ask some questions. The White House press corps have become accessories in more than one sense. There is the criminal law concept of accessories, and there is the fashion notion of accessories. Donald Trump turns White House reporters into both versions of that word, accessories. He treats them like handbags or cufflinks, ornaments that he flashes around to pretend, and only pretend, that he is openly communicating about what he is doing in his workday, when he never really answers questions. And so that is never true. And Donald Trump uses the press corps as accessories before and after the fact of his lies. Donald Trump uses White House reporters to evade questions asked by other White House reporters. He plays them for clowns, and they have no idea how to resist it. And I have to admit, if I were in the White House press corps, I'm not sure I would figure out how to resist it, except to maybe yell out some question about Donald Trump lying about something, and then I wouldn't be in the White House press corps anymore. I would be shown out the door, and that would be the end of that. There was a moment in Donald Trump's playing with the press today that shows everything all at once. It shows Donald Trump's colossal stupidity in an exchange that he thinks shows how clever he is. Imagine how stupid you have to be as president of the United States to think that when asked a question about something important that you're supposed to know, your answer is, I don't know, why don't you tell me? There have been previous presidents who have been asked questions that they didn't know the answer to, which they should have known the answer to, and not one of them said, I don't know, why don't you tell me? Because none of them are as stupid as Donald Trump. Only Donald Trump could do that. And only Donald Trump has been able to beat down and humiliate White House reporters to the point where they take that for an answer meekly and shut up, which is exactly what happened today.
You're muted, Ron. You're on mute.
Man, I thought it was me.
We're all on mute. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry about that. There was some beeping horns, and I didn't want to interrupt. But what I love about Lawrence is, of all the journalists, of all the anchors, I don't think anyone else calls Donald Trump or the dumpster stupid, ridiculous.
He says all the things.
He says it
and you know
every day, and he's still on the air.
You know why? He's been the only one to ever call Trump out on everything that he's done from day one, because he has facts behind everything he says. He has never once said anything untrue about that man. Every time he stood up to him, Donald Trump has stepped back, because he comes forward, comes to the table with pure truth and facts and receipts. And when you do that, no one can tell you you're wrong.
But
same thing with Rachel.
I will have to disagree on some level of that, because I've seen a lot of reporters like the Joy Reids and the people that are out there that come, they got their facts. They got their.
Wait, but here you're missing one key point of this. He's a white man.
There you
Right.
go. That's all
Absolutely.
He is a
I
white
wanted to-
man.
Absolutely.
And there must be also we had this. I don't know where we had this conversation. I know it was this week or last week. I'm almost convinced that also Lawrence O'Donnell knows where all the bodies are buried for MSNBC because they do not touch him at all. Now there was a moment when they were trying to get.
Later.
They were like
later too.
There
was a moment 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. They were like, "Where's Lawrence?" And they had to bring him back. He was on like a sabbatical, or they were trying to negotiate his contract or something. But he is the only one in mainstream media that calls the president stupid, ridiculous,
retarded. Yeah, everything.
I mean, he calls him every single thing, and I take pleasure in it all. I just
he's not defaming him. He's only speaking.
I
truth.
laugh so hard. I'm like Lawrence, you are the man, dude. You are the man, because a lot of people can't get away with it, but he can. And I just say, keep going. But he brings out what's interesting about Lawrence. Remember, Lawrence served in Congress.
Yes, he did.
And not only that, he also served as what's his name? He was a senator of New York, and his name is on our Penn Station. Monahan. He I think he clerked or he worked for Monahan, and so he has all of this deep
knowledge,
Washington connections and knowledge, and how it all works, and who's talking to who.
He worked in entertainment, writing for what's the show again?
The West Wing.
The West Wing.
Yes, right.
So he
Wing.
has a vast sense of knowledge.
I forgot he did that.
His hands are in everything. So all the things that the Orange Menace wants to be, or Lawrence O'Donnell has been and has had hands in it. He is boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And
As they say, he has the receipts.
And they all operate. They can't keep operating in fear. That's the thing. Like the whole thing is they have fearful. You looking out for your job, and and I see comments. People, you got to look out for your job, but the saying still stands. If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything, and you let anything pass by, and you're standing there watching it, and then you think it's not going to turn out for you any better than it is anyone else, because and people. What you found out is when people cave to him, those people get taken over. That the ones who push back and fight are the ones who stand a little longer, right?
That's right.
And that's what I'm watching all his comments about DC in the last couple of days. I told my husband, I said, "You ready to sell this house? Because it might be time to go." But anyway.
Well, then you see what also he's trying to do in New York. You see what he's trying. See, Adams is not going to probably. I don't think Adams is going to win. I think Adams is so behind on the poll that now he's threatening New York, that he's going to take over New York if Adams. I mean, he doesn't say if Adams doesn't win, but that's the only person really the competitor.
Because he's already planting the seeds that he is a
communist.
Communist, yes. Excuse me.
He's calling him a communist, Mr. Balloon Man.
You got balloons and everything.
This thing, listen, you sit there trying to do it, it doesn't work. Keep my head to myself.
But also, and this is what the Japanese prime minister said this week. I think it was Monday, because they were saying, Trump is telling that the Japanese people they need our rice. They need our rice. And I was like, do you realize China could give them rice? The Philippines could give them rice. Vietnam could give them rice. I mean, do you know that rice is born? I mean, there's more rice overseas than here in America. And he's bickering about they're not buying our rice and they need our rice. They don't need our rice. And then to fight someone, and so the Japanese prime minister said, we will not be bullied. We will not, he says, because an extortioner always comes back for more. And I was like, dog, I was like, ouch. And he was like, we're not going to do it. And Trump is so stupid. He doesn't realize, again, of all the countries in the world, Japan has the most investments in America. They employed more than 1 million workers in America.
And they have all those bonds. The U.S. bonds.
They have our treasury. They own the majority of the treasury. If they decided tomorrow they wanted to bankrupt America, all they can do is just call in their treasure, their bonds tomorrow morning and say it's over. You think you big and bad? We'll just bankrupt you right now.
I don't know why that thumb keeps popping up. Chris not even moving his hands.
I'm literally not doing anything. My hands are right here.
Your AI is losing its mind over there.
I think so. I'm really not doing anything.
The whole rice thing, right? We are rice eating family. Our rice is imported.
Our rice comes from overseas.
It's imported.
Yes.
Our rice is imported.
Yes. No, he's so stupid to think that
he's in shop.
My rice my rice that's in my cabinet from Thailand.
Right.
I get rice. Too. Mine is from Trader Joe's, Thailand. You go in there and it says from Thailand.
He doesn't understand. Well,
he doesn't understand. He's so stupid.
He doesn't understand groceries.
Just like Lawrence O'Donnell says, if you could not write this in a script of how dumb a person being the president could be. Lisa says, Dump is threatening to take over New York City if Zoran wins. Exactly. But that's not, because he can't do that. That's against the law. Well, anything. But he is trying to fearmonger so that way people will vote for Adam because they're afraid that he's going to take over New York. But New Yorkers are not stupid. We know that Adams has been compromised. Yeah. On some level, at least we feel like he's been. We don't know for sure. Allegedly, he's been compromised.
Right. Let me tell you, it's a time to be diplomatic and everything. He has been compromised. He went to the DOJ and they did what they needed to do. He has been compromised. It's not he maybe. He has been compromised. I think that's where we can't fall short on saying that. He went there. They did him a favor, as they say in the community. They did him a solid. And now they own him.
Say it, yes.
If I got to add, okay, on the last thing, I wrote it down here. The law is relative now.
Sorry,
so, it is.
Yeah, so that's my reminder of, and I'm really trying to make a conscious effort not to stoke anxieties or fears.
Say it. Brian, you just got to say it. Just say it, dude. Say it. Like we having a conversation in the bar.
Well, this is how I seriously, because I do believe words matter and words have weight, and I don't speak anything into existence. However, I'm not naive. I can see these pieces being laid out, and in my opinion, we are being conditioned. We are living through conditioning as we speak. We are living through conditioning of the law is relative when it comes to this orange Jabba the Hutt and his regime with law. In my opinion, again, I'm going to center it. This is my opinion. The Supreme Court is compromised. The media is the media is compromised. Maybe not the individuals, but their leadership, who is guiding them to adjust Q&A or stories. The media is compromised. The Supreme Court is compromised.
Brian, I know. I'm gonna jump in because we just heard it from Stacey. She already laid that all out for us. So I mean, everything's been compromised, but the people have been conditioned, and they need to just, like Elise is saying, we need to step up to the plate. Like Elise is saying, those people in the press room, they need to knock out the fear. They can't arrest everybody. They can't arrest all the press corps. They can't arrest all the people in the country. They can't arrest all the college presidents and people. They can't arrest everybody.
So I'll go past because that was the last thing, just the law. When I hear, hey, it's against the law, that's relative now. But what I wanted to come back to with that Lawrence O'Donnell and yet the media, but in a rare moment yesterday, I had that cabinet meeting on live in the background. And it was a reminder, if anybody can stomach it, go watch it, go rewatch it. And just the two notes I had for myself from watching that. One, watching it live, so there was no edits, sounds like it's a reminder, sounds like the ramblings of an old man at the end of the bar when he was there with his cabinet. And two, it was maybe 1.5 and then 2. It was jarring, just separately of how I feel about this excuse for a human, but it was jarring and another reminder for myself watching it. Dude, he does not look well at all. Whoever did his face paint yesterday, the bronzer was over bronzed on Mr. Bronzy.
Well, the whole we all know that something is wrong with him. We all know that. Let me just jump to what Dr. Taji said, because that was really funny to me. She says, New York City's not having. Did he see what the Haitians did to ICE? Okay, stand down, dummy. And they were not having the Haitian community in New York City. They went in there. ICE tried to go in there, and they said, and I don't think they took anyone. They had to get back in those vans.
They had to get protection to get out of there.
They had to get.
They left.
We are not playing.
Yeah, they had to get protection to get out of there. But I think, and Jazzy mentioned something earlier, and I've said this before, as we look at the different political, like, Republicans, Democrats, but people have to hold themselves accountable. We have to hold ourselves accountable.
Yes.
We have to hold ourselves. We are here because of people, whether it's the way you voted or you didn't vote, it's whatever you did. That's why we're here. And then how do we say journalists should do things in mass. What do we do in mass? Like, you see what happened when the Haitians came together in mass. People are that's the only thing that we have left is us. Because every branch of government on the federal level is totally compromised. Every one of them, totally compromised. You have senators, Republican senators and House members saying, "Oh, this bill is awful," but they voted for it.
Yes,
they voted for it, no matter what. They voted for it, even if they know their constituents are going to be hurt. They still voted for it, right? The ones in the Senate who held their ground, they just found one that was easy pickings. It's just like anything else. They can always find someone who can be bought.
Yes.
Like the senator from Alaska or your next door neighbor. There's someone who can be bought and they'll sell you out. And so how do we do that? I think there's some questions that we as people are going to have to start asking ourselves, because when you watch some of these, I guess they call it dystopian movies, or you read books, we are at the point of Parable of the Talent. They're building these facilities where they're building facilities, and they're going to end up, they're going to make sure they don't get out of the facilities. They're going to send them out, and they're going to have to do work. And then with your Department of Agriculture person saying, we have 34 million able-bodied people on Medicaid, so they're going to have 100% of people
I was going to
go there. American people in the field, but we have to go there.
Because I was going to go there. That's important to say.
Okay, I thought we are at that point. We are at that point where they're going to say, "Here's your field assignment," and guess what? Because not everyone lives close to the field. What are they going to have to construct for the field hands?
That's right.
Some kind of housing. They're going to have to make sure that they monitor those people in the housing. Y'all trust and believe they're going to have monitoring on those people in those houses, that housing that they provide. And the experiment was alligator Alcatraz, but they're going to start building those things if they are allowed to continue the way they're doing. That's what they're going to do. They're going to have housing for them at these farms, and they're going to force them to work.
Yeah. And she said it. She said it. She said it yesterday, and she said we got these able bodies, and that's why we're going to be using. And we got all these workers from that are on Medicaid, and I mean you can see what they're telling you what they're going to do, and people it's not far fetched. This is what people talk about when they're going into slavery, a slavery economy. They want because remember. In the Constitution, if you are considered a criminal, you can be enslaved. And so they can just make sure everyone has been charged with some criminal and not have done anything, but if they charge you with it and say you're a criminal, slavery is around the corner, y'all.
Well,
if we allow it, and let me just make
if you resist or you don't show your ID to an officer, oh, that's a crime.
Yes.
I mean, and then the people didn't realize, I think that we have to constantly remind those people who voted against themselves, whether they were Spanish speaking or whatever they were, voted against their own best interest when they said, oh, we're going to go after criminals. Not understanding that in their mind, being an illegal immigrant to this country is a crime. You interpreted that as violence. They said crime.
Yes.
And so you're here illegally, that you are a criminal. So therefore, when you see things so sad as to hold these stands on these strips, and ICE has come through and taken everyone from their stand. Yeah. And the stands are still there hot. The food is still there. Flowers are still left on the side of the road where they have wiped those people out and taken them away. They didn't go there because those were criminals, not in the violent sense. They went there because they suspected them of being illegal immigrants. And nobody, as they said, no one's illegal. But that in their head, that's what it is, and that's a crime. And I think that more people need to understand that as they're crying. I didn't think this was going to happen. No, you didn't think this was going to happen to you because you said I'm not a criminal. But if you're not here and you're not documented, in their head, you've committed a crime.
You're a criminal. And Lisa says, but that's why these YouTube news stations are what we need. The Don Lemon show, the Joy Reid shows, Roland Martin show are our new reliable resources. Absolutely. It is so important. That's why I say I support some of these platforms financially because it's important that we support them financially because that's how they're able to pay for their staff, pay for their StreamYards, whatever platforms they're using to get the information, to pay for bus tickets, gas, whatever they need to do to get to where they need to go to give us the news. And we as a people, as a community, as not just this community, but all communities, we need to be supporting these independent media platforms because they are our ears, our eyes and ears to what's going on. They have the connections. Joy Reid still has all her connections in DC. Don Lemon has still all his connections. All these people still have their connections. They may not be with mainstream media any longer, but they still have their connections and they have the ability to get us the right information and the information that's going to benefit us.
But I want to add this for you. Go ahead, Chris.
Yes.
We can't
wait. We can't hear you. Wait. Let me give. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yep.
I'm just saying I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Okay, partner.
All right.
What I was getting ready to say, Ron, is that you have to give value to platforms like this one.
Yes.
Because there are people who get their information from here who may not have heard certain things. Like Chris said, he hadn't heard about the CEO of Twitter leaving, but he heard it because you said it, right? So you can't discount what the everyday people do on platforms like this.
Oh no, I would never. No, we can't discount. Yeah.
Because some people and it's not that you all speaking the same thing and don't have discussions back and forth. And come to either agree to disagree or whatever but people seeing real people in dialogue and encouraging other people to dialogue because that's the way things have to change. And then how do we move from the talks to actions? That's the biggest part too. And so you have to think about that. And Jazzy was you mentioned about them not voting. The one thing is that what people have to understand, they are using Social Security, IRS records to find these people because they pay federal taxes.
Yes, they do.
Pay taxes. They don't get services, but they pay taxes. And now he's like, oh, we're going to have them down here and they'll be with the owner farmers and they'll pay taxes, but they're already paying taxes there.
Yeah, because they do. Go ahead, Brian.
I wrote 3 things that you guys covered that I want, like, for example, and forgive me if this is hit or miss or pass, but the whole one, I have the Alcatraz, the alligator Alcatraz, and then yesterday, and I don't know if you guys covered this before I hopped in, he or his regime, and that's what I'm intentionally calling them, were talking to one of the elected officials in Alaska about having a bear Alcatraz. And so I want to reshift. These are internment camps. These are concentration camps. Looking at history, and 2, the notion of, like, if we're not careful and we are slow rolling into slavery to an extent. But when we use that verbiage to, I got this from a young person yesterday that totally switched how I was viewing things. When I mentioned, for example, Gestapo, this young 20-something had no idea what I was talking about for historical reference. So when I bring up, let's shift, like, the slavery, the verbiage, like, okay, slavery back in the day may not be today, but it's of the same ilk. It's shifted. And lastly, going to, like, the people who voted for this, and I clapped back on somebody earlier this week who I didn't vote for it. Oh man, when I hear that, one, depending on who it is, I no longer even remotely waste my currency of time engaging with them. But if they are open and receptive, then a MAGA or somebody who voted for that, orange side, but I didn't vote for this. I didn't. Hold up, Chief. Connect the dots. I'll walk with you if you're willing to walk with me on this. Yes, you did. Sit with it, own it. You did vote for this. No politician that I've voted for in all my voting years has had 100% of what I want. But if they had at least 80%, and that other 20%, I felt was still from their moral fiber and the good of people, I'm willing to rock with it. But saying that I did not vote for this, like the one business owner in Florida I heard an interview with earlier this week, who was shocked and appalled that his entire team was gone. Like, and you voted for, no, as we often say, you voted for the pain to be on somebody else until it hit your door. Now you're up in arms. You did vote for this, own it. Now what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do?
Well, the whole thing is, if I may interject now, is that they did vote for what this was going on. They kind of comment, they try to act like they don't, but they did. They just didn't think it was going to happen to them. They thought it was going to happen to someone else. They thought it was going to happen to them over there, those people of color. And as we get ready to close out, but think about the numbers came out with the Defiant lawyer on his platform. He was talking about job losses over the last year, and Black women have had the highest numbers of unemployment over the last year due to the getting rid of DEI in a lot of these corporations and platforms and places to work. And so let's keep our sisters, our Black sisters, in prayer. And also a lot of them, I'm so excited about some of them. Like, I've been really engaged on social media in a way I've never been before, because I'm going through I'm learning about all these people, and I'm discovering them, and I'm discovering them also through you guys, because when you guys are following someone, it falls into my feed, and then I say, whoa, I didn't know this person existed. And so I start going down their page. There's one girl, she was on, and she said one of her clients or vendors or something decided not to go with her. She was supposed to speak on a panel, but they didn't want her to. They said she wasn't the person of the time or whatever. But she says, I want to create my own table so that I don't need to step at their table and be a part of their table. I'm going to create my own table, and I'm going to have I want to have the full thing at my table. And we have to really support one another. But I'm looking at, I'm noticing also a lot of these people that are online on social media are starting to get more engagements because people are realizing the pull away from anything that is negative, like negativity, crazy, supporting the MAGA movement, all the other stuff that's out there. And people are really gearing up with the history. How many people that you see now are sharing Black history, banned books, books that, telling their story, what's happening in their world. And this is to take us back to what Elise was saying, is that Don Lemons and the Joy Reeds, those are, I call, they're like they're mega, I would say mega, micro, they have a larger platform, larger followings.
Right.
But the where the energy is the micro audiences.
Right.
The micro audiences like ourselves, with 200 or 100, 700, 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10, those people that they call them the micros. That's where this kind of conversations are being engaged, and we are the real people. Yeah. The real people are having conversations, and I can't tell you how many times from this platform, from this community, have I walked away enlightened. So thank you, Elise, for making sure you put that out there. Yeah. And we also need support too. That's why you need support on our Patreons. Support.
I want to make 2 points.
Yes.
One is understanding that the impact it's having on Black women is to understand that when they say DEI now,
yes,
it definitely doesn't impact the white female because they're basing it on race. But it's basing it on race. It doesn't say gender, like those other things had gender, right? So they really don't talk about the gender part. They put it on race, so so she's not as impacted because they know they need the white woman to keep supporting them, right? And the other part is if ever confronted by someone that says, "Oh, I voted for them, but I didn't vote for this," but yes, you did, because I would like them to tell me what is it that's happening now that he did not vocalize when he was running for the office before you pushed that button and elected him president, because everything that's happening now, he said it. He said what he was going to do. He talked about the Muslim ban. He talked about cracking down on immigration. He said all of that out of his mouth before he was elected. You chose to elect him anyway.
That's
because yes, somehow you thought you weren't included in those things because of your interpretation of what he was saying. And you didn't. At that point, some people said, yeah, 50% of my staff is undocumented, but you voted for him and now you're upset that you lost 50% of your staff or your whole staff. And so I think that they have to be reminded, tell me what part didn't he say before you push that button?
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's the most important part of the whole conversation with anyone who says that, because they voted for exactly what you see now. People try to tell you about Project 2025. You said it was a hoax because he said he didn't read it, but everything he's doing is in that document. So, it's a lot of things. I think
and we've been talking about Project 2025 for 2 years.
Yeah, talked about it forever. And I was like, but what we can't do is get and I'm gonna make this a religious kind of quote. We can't get weary in well-doing. We cannot, because we do get exhausted.
Yes.
And we do get tired, and we may not say some things. And I know I've pulled back sometimes, but the whole point is where your fight is not always just a street. This is social media is where you also fight. It's also where you educate people. My daughter, this is a side, my daughter and I watched Fahrenheit 451. I had never watched the movie. I said, but they're taking the books, they're gonna burn them, they're gonna do all of these things. And then when you think about it, where are the challenges on the other side? What books do we believe that they love so much that we want to see banned. How can they deny us those things? I always think that we have to start using what they have out there to our advantage. The things in education. What is it in the curriculum that negatively impacts your child as a person as a Black American or a person of color? What bothers them, and what is it that made them so uncomfortable doing that lesson that they need to adjust that lesson? Because if anyone has the right to do it, everyone should have the right. And then if they say your child does not have that right, then we have a lawsuit that says it was all race-based. But until we start playing their game and doing it at their level, and not getting just upset and say, oh my God, that's so awful. Okay, so sit back, take a moment, take a beat and say, okay, so I'm sitting back. What was said? What did they do to accomplish that? And how can I use it to my advantage?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I've often thought about it. I say, why aren't we banning their books, like the Nazi books and the Confederacy and all the stuff that they cherish? Right. Because it's offensive to us. Why don't we ban those books? Why don't we first of all, we also know that the book banners, it's not like it's a lot of them. I think it's like maybe 12 people around the country that are going from school, library to library to library banning books. That's all they.
It's only one per. Well, I shouldn't say only.
And it used to be this one woman. I forgot her name. But she was the one that was doing it. But there's several of them now.
But now they have the Moms of Liberty, which is the new Daughters of the Confederacy. So, and we have to understand that, right? We have to understand that the history curriculum that they pushed, where they told the great lie, that where they didn't want to tell the truth, was because of the Daughters of the Confederacy and how they manipulated and wanted to control what was taught in history, what was taught in school, right?
Yes.
So now you have the Moms of Liberty. That's a new version. So now it's like, we know these books are awful and these things are awful and this is what they're doing. And we're, like you said, and they recruited women all across the country.
Yes.
To do this. And it's when you get to the podium and look into your library, I'd say when I go back home, I'm going to check my local library and find out if there's a copy of Mein Kampf in there, and then take it to the librarian and say, I think this should be banned.
Elise, what you're hitting on, and I'm utilizing the same rule book that they're doing to us, to them. And I highlight the Black Panther Party used the law when it came to firearms back in the 60s, when they showed up, at the state capitol with their shotguns. And
you have to always
and all of a sudden it's like, then they made, then I believe Reagan was governor at that time, and then
he was.
Then mysteriously it was an issue. So just to the book portion and any other things, this reminds me of what one of my mentors says. Okay, now that you've addressed the issue, it's three things. What do you want to do? What can you do? What will you do? So my bad.
And also, this is how they were able. This I think it was a Black woman. This Black woman was able to get rid of the KKK, the KKK, by taking something that they were using. And she took them to court, and she bankrupted them. She bankrupted them of all their funding, all their money, and then that's how they end up scurrying away into the police departments around the country, because they could now no longer be an entity. But this Black woman, I don't know, I forgot her name, but I think it was a case in the 70s. And she ended up bankrupting the KKK by using their own methods against them. So, Elise, what you're saying is absolutely has been practiced before. And like you said, because once they say, well, you can't do that to us, and then they take it to court, or I should say we take it to court on them, then you can pass legislation and you can pass laws based on that. And you can get rulings that will in your favor. So that way, if it's good for the goose is good for the gander. Okay, guys, this is it. Thank you guys for joining today. I think we had this was a great water cooler conversation. We had lots of topics, And so I see in here, Lisa says, who owns the Schoenberg here in New York City? We have to protect that library. I do believe the Schoenberg is connected to the Metropolitan Museum. I think it is. Just someone look that up. I do believe they're connected on some level. So it is funded by the state, the city, and private donations. I see also Lisa says, Hakeem said, we are doing Project 2026. What is it exactly? Don't tell me we're doing Project 2026 as a catch line. Give me some information. They should be working on, they should be putting something together. And just like the gentleman that is about the, he does the poor people's movement in from North Carolina, I think he is from. He said, don't just say what you're going to do, or don't just say, oh, vote for me.
Right.
Tell me what you're going to do when you vote for me or vote for you. Let us know on paper. Hakeem and all of these people need to be putting on paper their Project 2026.
And
what do you want to do?
Yeah. And with Lisa saying that, because, I used to, before I started working in the school system, I worked with legislative branch for National PTA. One of the big things we did was make appointments. And even before I did work with National PTA as a parent, in a part of PTA, I would make appointments to meet with representatives on the Hill and take people with me. I think we're at the point where we need to make appointments, not going down there with the sign and getting locked up in the lobby. Mm-hmm. Make an appointment with Jeffries. To sit down with Jeffries and say, hey, so when you go out there, tell me, why are you saying this? Why are you bashing certain people? Why are you doing what you do? I think he needs to know that we're not happy, and then need to also know I want to know how much AIPAC money do you have? Mm. Because is that an influence in how you're talking about this gentleman who's running for mayor in New York? Though we need to be real specific. We need to start putting pressure on them as well, because what comes out of their mouth needs to be more consistent, and everything doesn't have to be put in the universe out there to say, oh, we don't have to do anything. Because one of the things, and I told you all this before, there was this Klan man, and I could see how he was dressed when he was talking. He said, well, we can continue putting the drugs in the neighborhoods and the guns. He said, because that leaves less for us to do. They'll destroy each other. Mm-hmm. So with their mouths, they can destroy something, right? By saying it out loud, instead of saying, let's sit down and talk about it, and let's not rush out here and tear each other down, because that's what you're doing. Tear each other down, which benefits them. So that's less work for them to do, because you're doing the work they want you to do. And so I think we need to make appointments with, look, I'm gonna be on the phone, but when y'all see me, I'm gonna be on the phone. I won't be out there protesting in the rotunda. I'm gonna be sitting in somebody's office trying to talk to them. And I know he's a New York person. If a New York person is gonna be in DC sometime soon and want to say, hey, Representative Jeffries, can we meet with you? Do it. I'll come. And I've done it as a DC person. I've met with Republicans.
But he's also he's the House minority, so he can. I mean, he needs to have access. Everyone needs to have access to him.
Right. So that's my thing. Is like, I think the person who used to take a lot of action, and I was telling my family this. I said, she's back, and she needs to start doing and not just talking. Yes. And I think he needs a talking to, and so does Cory Booker. I'm upset that Adrian was saying the Deltas are in DC, and their speaker is going to be Cory Booker. Why? Yes. And not Jasmine Crockett. Why?
Yes.
Or some other woman, or Angela Ossobrooks, who's a senator, a black female senator out of Maryland. Why?
Or
Why
Presley?
Cory Booker?
What's her name? She's so good. Presley from I think she's from Massachusetts. I think she's from.
Right. And while he's sitting and having conversations with people that are doing some things we may not like. So why is he their keynote speaker for the Deltas? That's interesting to me. But anyway, I guess you stand up for 25 hours, they elevate you that way. But I think even he needs a conversation. I don't need Gandhi right now.
Yeah, we need fight. We need fighters.
Need somebody who's
we
not
need fighters
and feel good every day. I need some fight, and I need to sit and tell Jeffries, I don't care about you with your baseball bat and your hat and your T-shirt trying to look like you down with people, and then when what you say out of your mouth may not be the most effective thing or get us where we need, and not hard enough. Like right now, I promise you, they need, Jasmine and Angela Austin Brooks are both
deltas. So
right now,
they should have been speaking.
You need a bulldog mentality.
Yes.
You need people who will say, I don't care what y'all say, I'm going to be up here with this man. I'm going to be out here helping him. Because that's how you do it. When people are trying to get it, and I say this people all the time, this is the time you go and support that young man who's running for mayor out there in a tangible way. And help, because that's when they start understanding what the needs are and how to work. And when you can talk about what you really want, as Jazzy say, stop talking about they're not doing it when you haven't expressed what it is that you want. I think it's just time for us to figure out what our actions are and how we can be strategic about it. It's not everybody doesn't have to be outside with a sign or a bullhorn. Some of us needs to be at some of these tables with Democratic representatives who we may not like what they're saying in public, and put them in check.
And to that point,
you got the last word. That's it. Okay. Guys, I'm out. We are out. Thank you, Brian, for joining us today in this conversation. Thank you, Elise. And we are out of here, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us on this Touch Base Daily. It is 12:27. We are just on time. We were at 12:39. And we are out. Okay. So see you tomorrow on our Trend Watch Thursday. Later. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Make sure you hit the like, the subscribe, and leave a comment on this video. I would love to hear from you. Thank you again. Until I see you next time.